Hello, I'm Monica Price and welcome to Cuppa TV. Today on the show I speak to Jackie Macdonald, whose son Glyn sadly died of type 1 diabetes. Jackie will be joining me to tell her story and raise awareness of this life-changing condition. We also welcome back Sheila McMahon, psychotherapist, who will be talking to me about mental health in adults. Today is Jackie Macdonald, whose son Glyn sadly died as a result of type 1 diabetes at the age of 19. She joins me on the sofa to tell us her story. Welcome, Jackie. Thank you so much for coming on to Cuppa TV. So, first of all, type 1 diabetes, that's a condition, it's a serious condition, isn't it? That perhaps not many people know about. So let's talk about that.
Well, Glyn was just 5 years old when he'd started being unwell, in the respect that he was drinking more and going pale and pasty. I'd spoken to my mum about it and she said, have you thought it could be diabetes? Because she remembered a cousin of ours who had been diagnosed at a younger age. And obviously we got him to the doctors. He was diagnosed at the surgery but then admitted straight into the Children's Hospital in Birmingham. And obviously it was confirmed he'd got type 1 diabetes, which makes you insulin dependent for life.
So again, was that quite a shock
Yes.
to you? I mean, just that news, you know. Was he born with diabetes?
No.
Do you know? So it just developed, and you know, and when it was 5, it showed itself.
Yes, yeah.
And when you had that news, how did you feel as a mum?
Devastated, absolutely devastated. It changed our lives completely because at that time then, back in the early 90s, the science around the treatments of diabetes isn't what it is today, and it was clock watching. You know, you have to blood test 8 to 10 times a day. You have to snack regularly when you know, just to make sure that you're maintaining a healthy lifestyle because you're injecting the insulin. At that point, it was twice a day.
And how did Glyn cope with it all?
He was absolutely amazing. He was very. He became very mature for his years because he was only in reception. But once we'd got all the medication and everything sorted out and his blood testing machines, he went up to school, stood in front of all his little school friends and explained what had happened to him. And all his friends got really excited by the fact that when he was going to be doing sports, that he'd got to have a Mars bar so that he'd have the energy to actually take part in the sport. So at the end of his little talk, they all wanted to be diabetics.
Oh.
But out of that grew many friendships that were going to be, you know, long-lasting friendships because they knew what was wrong with him right from the beginning. And they knew the signs to look out for, and they remained very good friends throughout his life.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
And for you as a family, because you've got a daughter as well,
yes,
so haven't you? So did it have an impact on the whole of the family?
Yes, it did, because obviously, not wanting to be unfair, because Glyn couldn't have sweet things like normal children could, or we had to make sure that his bloods were at the right level so that he could, you know, have something.
Function.
Yeah. Laura would always say, well, if Glyn can't have anything, I don't want it either. So we always grew up, you know, it was across the board. Nobody would have anything if Glyn couldn't have anything. Obviously over time, because of the management of the diabetes, things did change and he could have the treats and things, but was able to manage it better as he got older.
As I was saying, as you get older, it can become more manageable, can't
That's
it?
right, yeah.
But I mean, the disease stayed with him as type 1 diabetes does.
Yes.
But it stayed with him and he went to school and he actually became a mentor, didn't he?
That's right, yes.
So tell us about that. What did he do?
Well, obviously he went into senior school. Obviously, they have a nurse on site who really should be there looking after like the children in school. But because Glyn was so mature and he knew exactly what he was doing, any newly diagnosed diabetics in school were then given to Glyn to mentor. So like he would sit and have conversations with them about the diabetes and how to manage it. So they would go to Glenn rather than go to the school nurse.
Because he could empathise, obviously, with the
Obviously, yeah,
situation.
yeah.
And again, very mature, because he
Yes.
was obviously very young to do that.
Yes.
And then from college, what happened then? So he went from senior school.
He went from senior school to university. But he was then, he still kept in touch with everybody at school. And because of that, they had him CRB checked so that he could still carry on going back into senior school to do the mentoring for the diabetics at the school.
And did he enjoy doing that?
Yes, he did,
Okay,
because his ultimate aim for his lifetime achievement was to hopefully do psychology degree, which is what he was studying when we lost him. But he wanted to go into counselling for diabetics. That was the ultimate aim. And at the Children's Hospital, because they'd held on to him longer than they should have done before moving him on to a young adult hospital, he was already arranging like his future by volunteer. He was going to go into volunteering with the hospital, with the diabetic groups there as well.
Oh, really? So he was really actively involved, not only living with his illness, but actively involved in trying to help others as well.
Yeah.
And then what happened? What happened, Jackie?
Well, Glenn was very fit and healthy. He always looked after himself, so he never did anything wrong as far as his diabetes management was concerned. Never missed appointments. He always did what was needed of him to keep healthy. He loved Zumba.
Yes, he loved to dance,
Yes.
didn't he? Yes.
3 or 4 times a week he'd do his Zumba. And on the Monday night, he'd gone out, done his Zumba as usual, come back dripping wet, wanting to hug me in that state, and it was no, not till you've showered. Come down, he had some food, sorted his insulin out. We sat and watched some TV, and then we went up to bed. It was probably about 1:30. I jumped into bed, forgotten to turn my light off. I'm like, mate, can you turn my light off? Came in, come and give me a kiss. We said we loved each other as we always did. Turned the light off. Slept that night. Got up in the morning. My daughter went off to college. I looked in on Glenn and I thought he was still fast asleep. I'll just jump in the shower and wake him because he was going to be meeting friends in Wolverhampton. Had my shower, got out, opened the bedroom door again, and I just knew that something was wrong. And he had passed in the night.
And I mean, that must have been such a shock
Yes.
to you as a family.
Yes.
And from that, it made you want to do something to help others, though,
Yeah.
didn't it, Jackie?
Well, from out of this devastation that had hit us as a family, and because I found out that Glenn had that night actually signed a petition for the charity that I now try and promote, which is JDRF, Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, that he'd actually signed an online petition and he'd spread it round his friends and family on the 2nd of June because they was taking a paper to government to try and increase the funding to find, research for the cure for type 1 diabetes. So when I saw that, I thought, well, that's got to be his legacy now. I've got to take that forward. And that has become my focus to get me through. Well, it'll never get me through,
No.
but to keep me going.
But it helps.
Yeah.
So the JDRF, and you're wearing their badge today, is the
Yes.
Juvenile Diabetes
Diabetes.
Research Foundation. So what do they do, Jackie?
Well, all their funding goes into trying to find the cure for type 1 diabetes. And obviously that all goes on it goes on in America as well, but over here it's our Queen Elizabeth Hospital.
Right,
They've got
yes.
doctors there who are actually doing research for JDRF too.
And again, it's, as you say, it's a global organisation.
Yes.
So you're trying to raise that awareness. And do you think it's important that that awareness is raised?
I think it's very important because people and the media only seem to talk about type 2 diabetes, which is late onset diabetes. So it's later life normally people, and it can normally be managed through diet and tablet form. Type 1 is where it hits you as a child or a young youth. The pancreas stops working and you become insulin dependent for life. And without good management, it is also life limiting if you don't manage it well. And obviously in very rare cases, what's happened to Glenn,
which is 6%. I was reading the 6% of the type 1 diabetes.
Yeah, under 40s can die of this dead in bed syndrome.
Jackie, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on and tell us your story. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're just going to take a quick break there, so come back and join me in just a minute. Welcome back to Cuppa TV. Joining me now is someone you may have seen before on Cuppa TV and a very good friend of the show, psychotherapist Sheila. Sheila, thank you so much for coming back again.
Hello.
It's a resident place going on now.
It's great. I love it here. I love making a difference.
Exactly, and that's what it's all about. Now, Sheila, what are we going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about mental health in adults.
Right, absolutely. We've spoken before about mental health in young children, young adults.
Yeah.
Mental health in adults. Take it away, Sheila.
It's basically how we can help ourselves, and it's just like what I'm finding is that people just need to communicate more, and just there's so many different ways that we can help ourselves, and it's about accepting that we are only human, about building our awareness, especially if we're being too hard on ourselves, because I come across that so many times.
I think we're all a bit guilty about that. Yes. And why do you think that is, Sheila? Why do you think we are a bit hard on ourselves?
I think sometimes we can feel the need to have to be perfect. And the thing is, there's no such thing as perfect. And the other thing is, it's okay not to get things right, because how else are we supposed to learn? So it's just taking off the pressure. And I think sometimes these pressures come from the outside, having to look a certain way, having to be a certain way, instead of just trusting in who you are, finding out what makes you happy, and just being true to your own values and beliefs, and allowing yourself just to be who you are, regardless of anybody else.
Which sounds so simple, doesn't it?
It does.
In reality, that's not always the way though, Sheila, is it?
It's not. I mean, I do think a lot of it does stem from your upbringing. And I think, one of the things I've very much learned is when it comes to love, there's a big difference between unconditional love and conditional love. And a lot of times people were given conditional love because they didn't know any different. So they might have been brought up with the expectations, the fear, you've got to follow this way, you've got to be how we want you to be, you go, you get married, you have kids, this is how we do it. Whereas, that mightn't feel right.
Your way.
Exactly.
Yes. So sometimes it can parents put a bit of pressure on us almost. To be a certain way, to perhaps live a certain way.
To give an example of that, one of my clients was told that basically if he got a good education, a good job, he'd be set up for life. He got a good education, a good job, was made redundant. And you see, it doesn't always work out that way. And sometimes, people mean well, they give out advice, but you can't always guarantee what's going to happen. No. So you're actually better off to prepare yourself for things in life that don't always go the way you want them.
I mean, life isn't just, you have this image of, or maybe your dream of how your life should be, or you want it to be. Yes. And when people come to you, do you find that their dreams are shattered? Yeah. Or, they haven't lived their dream? When they come to you, what do they say?
Actually, and sometimes it's very interesting, and sometimes it's a case that they believe if they get married, they're going to live happily ever after. A bit like the fairy tale stories that they were told as kids. But you see, it's always work in progress. You look at any relationships, any jobs, you have to keep working at it. It's not like, oh great, I'm married now. I'm sorry, I can sit back and relax. Actually, no, you've got to keep being mindful of who you are and the people around you.
So, I mean, and now what do you do? You've got some steps. Have you got some steps?
I've got a couple of things that I want to share. One of the things is a cleansing technique.
Right.
I'm a firm believer in just allowing people to be how they want to be. And some people are not into personal development, sometimes they are kind of in fear and they don't want to, they don't want to promote themselves. They're afraid of their own confidence, if you like, that they mightn't achieve what they want. And that's fine, that's their choice if they don't want to help themselves. But for the people that do, what can happen is they can be dragged down by people that don't want to help themselves. They kind of want you to be with them. So what do? It's a bit like if you've had a cup of tea with somebody who drains the life out of you. Afterwards, what you could do is literally clean away any of the negative energy. Literally, as if you're dusting yourself down. Now, obviously, you wait till they've left the room before you do that. Okay?
Might be a bit rude.
Could you imagine doing that? But things like that, they do make a difference. And then you've got other stuff like managing your mind techniques. It's kind of a form of CBT, which stands for cognitive behavioural therapy. So, for example, I have something here, which is like a manage your thoughts daily tracker. And it's about keeping your thoughts in perspective because sometimes fear and anxieties can make you lose your rational thinking. So it's a bit like I was on a flight last night coming back from Ireland. I don't really like flying, but I will have ways to kind of keep my thoughts and rational, like what's the likelihood of the plane crashing? Very unlikely. And looking at evidence based on that. And then, of course, your breathing, learning to slow that down. So I suppose what I'm saying, Monica, is there's so many ways to help yourself. There's so many ways that you can be who you want to be.
Now, it's interesting, you say help yourself.
Yes.
Are we not very good at helping ourselves? It's particularly parents, I would say. Do they like to help others, particularly the family, and they see themselves last? Or is that not the case?
Okay, there's two things there. There's a bit of a pleasing culture sometimes. Sometimes you'll have people that they'll push everybody else before themselves. The problem with that is that they're ignoring their own needs. And while it's lovely to do stuff for other people, if you're ignoring your own needs, well, you're just kind of shoving yourself down, and eventually you could become resentful, you could become angry, but actually you've set that up in the first place. So I'd say awareness is a massive thing to do with that. Just being aware of that. Yes, it's lovely to look after other people, but at the same time, look after yourself. And again, it's just about being true to yourself that, you want to please your parents, your role models. They might want you to be a certain way, but that mightn't feel right for you. And if they love you unconditionally, they mightn't understand that, but they'll accept where you're at. So it's a bit like my family don't understand all the personal development and, myself being through depression, all that. How can they understand it? They've never been through it. They haven't been through the education that I have, but we accept each other. How lovely is that?
Yes, that's it. I mean, wouldn't that be wonderful if everybody could just accept each other as they were? You'd be out of a job.
I would actually.
But it's when you're working with people though, do you find there's an increase now, Sheila, in people coming to you with mental problems as an adult?
I do.
And is there any particular age? Is there any particular age group?
Actually, men in their mid-50s.
Really?
The majority of my clients now are that age.
Really?
And it just gets to a point where you don't talk, it builds up over time. Those expectations, things you wanted for your life, it doesn't work out that way. Who do you talk to? It's really important that you talk to somebody who's impartial to all of this. And it's loosening that stigma about it's okay to talk about it, that we all have down days. We all have times we wonder, are we doing the right thing? And that we're just doing our best. So communication is so important. And you see that because the downside is then that's where the depression comes in, that's where the suicidal thoughts come in, and that's the outcome we're all trying to avoid here. All of this can be prevented if we just take the mask off and, do you know what, enjoy feeling, enjoy being in a bad mood, enjoy being human.
Yes, well that's it though, isn't it? I do think we give ourselves a lot of grief, don't we? That's the thing about lots of things. And interesting you said about the men, because we've spoken about this before. It was the young guys before in young adults that have a lot of mental illness. Is it because men don't communicate, or is that just a misconception?
Do you know what, my own view of that is
because girls will gossip.
You see, I think there's still the stereotypes, men be strong,
yes,
hold it together.
Yes,
whoa,
yes.
Talk about a ticking bomb.
Yes.
That, and actually to talk, to be vulnerable, that's a real sign of strength. So it's breaking those stereotypes that, you know, and men and women, you know, we are the same. Like this sort of difference, I don't buy that actually at all. I think we're all sensitive human beings, whether we're men or women, you know, this sort of thing, to stop segregating, you know. We're all human beings, we all just want to be loved.
And when you're working with your clients,
Yeah.
Is there any sort of set way that you go about it? Do you obviously learn about their history?
Yeah.
Find out everything you
Yeah.
can about them, and then what do? Do you give them steps like this to move on? Sheila? Is that
Actually,
how it
no.
works,
I mean,
or how does it
when you're a
work?
counsellor, you never give advice and stuff. And what you do is you give them the space. Do you know what it is? You listen to them
To talk.
and you care. You care. That's what, and you value that person. And when you're given that sort of a space, it just allows you to shine. It allows you to figure out what's not been working in my life. And I would say that your environment, the people around you, oh yeah, that has a major factor on people. To be around people who support you and that are on your wavelength, because it's very difficult if you want to break out of that and become somebody else. And other people are scared and they see you moving on, they don't want to lose you. So unconsciously they can bring you down without realising it.
It's very difficult. You said that before. Surrounding yourself with positive people, really, and positiveness.
Yeah.
But how do you, you know, is it difficult for people to identify that, though, Sheila, sometimes?
It is, and you see, the thing is, as life goes on, we do change, you know, as we make different choices, and that was the other thing, actually. There was something earlier on where I said there was two things. It's recognising you have a choice, that you choose how you want to be. I'd say that's a massive thing when people come to me in counselling, that they think, oh, well, this is how it is and this is my lot in life.
Sheila, well, on that note, we've got to leave you there, I'm afraid. But thank you so much for coming on the show again. Lovely to see you.
You too.
That's it for today. I'd like to thank Jackie and Sheila for joining me, and thank you at home for watching. Please do get in touch with the show via Facebook or Twitter at Big Centre TV, and join me next time. Take care. Bye-bye.